Hello, thank you for joining me today. I'm Amanda Fowler of Inspiring Inkin, and in today's video we're going to be making this Wobble card, which is a card that I made for the Stampin' Up! Incentive trip a few weeks ago. It folds flat to go in the post, which is fab, but when it stands on the desk it looks really impressive. It's a really straightforward card to make, and I've actually been making this style of card since 2007. I was actually looking at my old instructions here, and I dated it. So 2007, we've been making these cards in my classes. So it's about time I did a video for it, really, isn't it? So we're going to be using the Awesomely Artistic stamp set from Stampin' Up! And the colours I'm using are Dapper Denim and Emerald Envy. These are the two of the 5 new in colours for 2016-2018. I've got cardstock in the same colours, and I'm also using the layering framelits to make the decoration here. So I'm going to get started first up with a piece of Dapper Denim, and I'm using the Dapper Denim ink. Now you need to do any stamping on the base part of the card before you score it. The reason for that is the score lines will make dips or bumps and your stamping won't be as crisp and you'll get breaks in it. So it's always better if you're going to be scoring or folding a piece of cardstock to use to stamp first and then to do the scoring. Okay, so I've got the 2 leaves, and I'm going to randomly stamp, and I know that's something that some people get a bit stressed about because they like things to be neat and ordered. So here are a few tips for you. I turn my cardstock around rather than try and twist my arm. It's just more comfortable, but it means then that each time I'm stamping, I'm changing the direction of the stamps. And can you see that I'm coming off the edges? That's really important. That will be how you make the cardstock look as though it's a piece cut from a larger piece, and it will be less, how can I describe it? It will look less like you've put things in position. So try that. I'm going to use the little stamp as well and just keep moving around. Now I'm actually going to fill up the cardstock quite a lot. Because of the way this is folded, you want to make sure that you've got lots of stamped images, so you don't end up with any blank bits showing. Right, last one, last 2. Now I have a rule of thumb. If I ink up my stamp and go, not sure, where shall I put that? That's the time to stop stamping. Step away from the stamp, because the next stamp that you do will be one too many. Okay, so let me move that out of the way. I'm going to, whilst I've got the Dapper ink out, I'm going to get a piece of vanilla and use the Blossom stamp from there. And this is actually going to be the background. So I'm going to stamp that, and I'm also going to stamp the dragonfly. Now what I did with the dragonfly was I inked it in Dapper Denim, and then I'm just going to use a bit of my grid paper here just to take off a little bit of the ink, and then I'm just going to dab it onto the Emerald Envy and stamp that as well. Wow, That is way too much Emerald Envy. Let me show you. Can you see? Okay, so we're going to do that again. Taking off quite a lot of the Dapper Denim and a tiny touch. Let's see if that one comes out a bit better. Yeah. Okay, so we've got the two colours of the dragonfly there. So I'm just going to put that to one side and we'll use that again later. Let me move that out of the way. Okay, so I'm going to do the scoring to make this piece now. And what I'm going to do is I have one I made earlier. This is Daffodil Delight, just to show you how the mechanism actually works. It's, like I said, it's really straightforward. It will fold flat, but you really need to work the score lines really well. Now I'm using the Stampin' Up! Trimmer. For me, this is the best way to do it because it's easy, because you've got a scoring blade on it, you've got a cutting blade on it. You can do this with a ruler and a blade for these pieces, but I find that my trimmer just makes it a bit easier. So I'm going to use the scoring blade first. And I am going to firstly score at 2 1/4. Actually, I didn't tell you what the size was. Okay, so sorry. This piece of cardstock is 9 inches by 4 1/2. So we're going to score it at 2 1/4. And then 4 1/2. That's going to give you 2 score lines, one there and one there. And then we're going to work on the top piece. Now we're going to score from here at 2 1/4 diagonally down. So I can show you better on this one. So it's going from here to here. Now this is at 2 1/4, and we're also going to be cutting that piece off. So I find it's easiest to cut the top pieces off first, and then you've got your line, to score. So I am going to use my scoring blade, which is that one, and I'm lining up the trimmer at 2 1/4, and I'm just making a tiny dint, and I'm hoping that you're going to be able to see that tiny dint at the 2 1/4 mark. And then I'm going to do the same here, and again, turn it over, that's easier, and then again here. Now you can do it with a pencil, but I'm a bit lazy. So if I do it with a pencil, then I have to find an eraser to about the pencil, whereas this way I've got the marks. So I'm now just lining up the 2 marks for each point on the trimmer track, and then we're just going to slice that off. And then we'll do exactly the same again. So the point and the mark, and that gives us the top. And then it means that it's really easy. We're going to line up the point to the second score line. So you're lining up the point down to here to the second score line. So I'm putting that in like that, and you're going to score. And then you're going to do exactly the same on the other side. So line up the point and second score line. Okay, right, so that's everything that we need the trimmer for. Now you need to use a bone folder and really burnish these score lines really well. The time that you take to do this now will make a real difference to the finished card. I always like to burnish all of my score lines anyway, on all of my cards, because I just think it gives a neater finish. But this card will stand much better and look much crisper if you've just spent a few minutes just burnishing over. And what I tend to do is I go do both sides. Okay, so let's just do that one as well. So I do one side and then I turn the whole thing over and do the other side as well. Okay. So naturally, the card will want to do this. These pieces will want to go in, and you'll want to lift that piece up, and those pieces want to go in, and there you go. See? Really, really quick card to make. So let's do a bit of gluing. This triangle piece here, you're going to stick to this piece. Now it's easiest to put the glue on the triangle so it will sit in the right place. So I'm just going to do that first. So I'm just going to fold that up, and then I know it will be where it needs to be, and then that's going to go there like that. So now I've got my basic fold, I'm actually going to do these other pieces for you. Now I need to cut my dragonfly out, so I will do that just quickly. When you're cutting out something delicate like this, just make sure you leave plenty of cardstock around the edge of the stamped image. You really don't want to cut the end of the tail of the dragonfly off or his antenna. And by leaving a little bit of cardstock beyond the stamped image, it means that it doesn't matter so much if you're not on the lines. If you try and cut on the lines and then you have a bit of a wobble, you will see it really clearly. But if you leave a little bit of a gap, then usually you'll find that it looks much better. So let's just, oh, nearly, last little bit. There we go. I've just got a lumpy bit there. Let me just trim that. Okay. Now dragonflies need a little bit of shimmer. This is the Wink of Stella. It's fabulous. It's just a clear one. So I'm just going to put a tiny touch on the wings. You really don't need very much. So just enough just to give it a little bit of a shimmer. So I'll leave that to dry. Now you'll see, oh, there's the original. You'll see on the original one, I've got this lovely scalloped edge and then this lovely square. Now the measurement for that is I want to say 2 1/4, but let me measure it. Let me just double check. Right, so the square itself measures 3 1/4. So a 3 inch or a 2 3/4 inch square will make a really nice mat if you're just going to cut squares out to mat on the top. I am absolutely loving these new layering framelits. So this is the layering squares. And I'm just going to take them out just to show you. Look, there's millions of them. Well, not really millions, but there's 19 different sizes. There are scallops and squares, and I've used the scallop to cut out an Emerald Envy scallop square, and then I'm just going to use the plain square that matches that to cut out for the flowers. Now, whilst I have you here, whilst I'm doing video, I want to talk to you quickly about this. Oh, I'm so excited. This is the new Big Shot platform. It's in the new catalogue. It comes with a thin die adapter. Okay. And I don't know how well the camera's going to pick this up. I'll zoom in and hopefully be able to see. There's a lump in this. It's the only way I can describe it. It's got a bumpy bit in the middle. When Sizzix first designed the Big Shot, we didn't have the fancy, really intricate dies. We didn't have these thin dies at all. We had great big clumpy dies. And the Big Shot kind of was designed to work with those. And over time, things have got smaller and thinner and more intricate. And the Big Shot was struggling a little bit in order to cut them. And lots of people would put in shims, so you'd get another piece of cardstock and you'd put in a layer, and you would struggle. Well, thankfully, Sizzix have recognised that it's been a problem, and they've brought out this new plate, which is fabulous. So this is all you need if you're embossing with the embossing folders. And then if you're cutting with the thin dies, this type of die, or any of the more intricate ones, you're going to use the thin die adapter. And what it does is that extra little bumpy bit in the middle evens out the pressure in your Big Shot. Because did you know, the sides of the Big Shot is where there's most pressure. So by putting this lumpy bit in the middle, it evens out the pressure. So it means that it cuts much better. So I'm all for that. I'm all for it working much better. So use the thin adapter, and because this isn't an intricate die, it's a nice square, then what I'm doing is I'm just using that and the cutting plate. If it was an intricate die, I'd be using the precision plate as well, but we don't need to with this. So give it a quick crunch through. There we go. Let's move that out of the way. Okay, so look how beautifully that layers on there. Fab. Love those dies. Blender pen. And the ink pad, sorry. I am going to colour in the flowers. Now, the blender pens have a solution in them, which means that they'll blend the ink, and potentially, yeah, there we go, there is enough ink in the flowers themselves for me to be able to use that ink to colour in. But if I want sort of darker flowers, then I can pick up the ink from the lid. So what I didn't show you that. What I did was I pressed the ink pad together and then lifted up the lid, and then there's ink here. Don't use your blender pen directly onto the ink pad because you'll end up with white spots when the chemicals actually go onto your ink pad. So just take it from the lid. So I am going to speedily colour this in. You don't want to be watching me doing this for hours. This is actually really lovely if you emboss it, if you use embossing powder, and then you could watercolour it as well, which would work really nicely. I just wanted a tone on tone effect, so that's why I'm just using the Dapper Denim with the Dapper Denim. Oh, just a few more down here at the bottom. There we go. Okay, so that's all done. So I'm just going to finish the card now. Really, really quick card. So that layer is going on here. Right, I'm going to get a little dimensional in the centre of my dragonfly. Pop that on. Ooh, make sure you put it on diagonally and play around with it until you're happy. And then just put that onto the front of your card. Okay, and that is it. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you've enjoyed today's Wobble card. You'll find full details, including measurements, on my blog, www.inspiringinkin.com. There is a link below. Also below you'll find a link to my online store. So if any of the products that you've seen today, if you'd like to purchase them, please pop over to my shop. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you again soon. Goodbye.